Innovation. I am so excited because we are going into PAD Awareness Month. That's peripheral artery disease, poor circulation in mainly the leg arteries. It's a disease more prevalent and deadlier than prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer combined. And yet, only more than 70% of people in the US don't even know what it is. It's really sad. Textbook symptoms include leg fatigue, leg cramps, leg pain, all of the above. I mean, people think that it's diabetic neuropathy or arthritis or it has to do with old age or back issues. But no, it is poor circulation in the legs. So we are here to raise awareness and we are celebrating the procedure. They have the best PAD awareness video, or should I say videos, of the year for 2025 through the Global PAD Association's Global PAD Impact Awards. So, Dr. John, I am so excited. I know you were interviewed as part of this series. They're hoping to put together a full documentary to raise awareness about amputations. It's called Amputation Nation. And
Yeah.
so hopefully they're going to raise enough money and we're going to see these clips turn into a full documentary. And our own Dr. John will be one of the stars of the
No,
episode.
it's
Of the
no,
episode.
it's I think when you look about ways to, at least me personally, raise awareness about this and this is cancer of the legs, basically. And so, you talk about grassroots efforts like what we do, but we have to figure out a way to kind of reach a broader audience, and it's things like this that allow us to do that. Um, the videos are great. It raises awareness. You're interacting with patients, and the patient stories are very um, they're 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 powerful. These folks are really in in despair, and they just oftentimes just don't know where to turn. And to be able to have a microphone and a voice is part of the Save My Piggies. It's part of what you do. It's part of what Wayne and Chris does. So congratulations. It's awesome. Looking forward to the conversation.
So let's kick off the conversation with a moment of inspiration, Dr. John.
Dr. John Phillips' spectacular vascular moment of inspiration.
So this week is the 52nd, I think, anniversary of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and we've all heard several of the famous quotes. But when you talk about PAD and staring down the barrel of an amputation, there's a lot of people that have despair, and we also talk about having faith in your doctors, faith in yourself, faith in if you're a religious person. But so Martin Luther, during this speech, he's quoted as saying, "With faith we will be able to hew out of a mountain of despair a stone of hope." So you got this mountain, it's despair, but you can find something, a little bit of hope that hopefully will drive you as a patient, or those of us that are committed to at least trying to help these folks to work harder, climb that mountain, so to speak, and really persevere and save the piggies. I mean, honestly, today was a day for piggy saving, that's for sure. So yeah, it's there's a lot of work to be done, but you have to have faith, like George Michael said.
But I love that these videos through Amputation Nation and the procedure that they're developing that are literally helping to raise awareness of advanced tools and techniques, such as what you do, Dr. John, as a critical limb ischemia fighter or CLI fighter or CLI operator. And so, their hope, I would imagine, is to really get the word out. So it creates a groundswell of patients being able to say, "Hey, doctor, you got to do this. Give me some hope. Learn
Well,
some of these advanced tools and techniques and give me the best chance of saving my limb and walking to live another day and living to walk another day."
yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it arms people with knowledge, and I think it frees them to ask questions about their disease. It's
Yeah.
so, people don't, PAD is nebulous to some degree. You say the acronym, a lot of folks don't understand what it is, despite the fact that 230 million people have it worldwide. Um, but it's through venues such as the videos that people can learn about it. It's very relatable. it's easy to understand. And again, it arms them to ask questions when they're seeing their doctor. Okay, how are you going to treat me? What can we do? What are some of the options? And this week, I was taking care of a patient who, he said, I thank you for just listening to me, and thank you for taking a chance, because I went to two separate hospitals. One of them is a large academic center, and they said, we're just going to cut your leg off. We don't have it. There's nothing to do. And I said, sir, we didn't know if we could fix it, but we thought we would, we'd give it a shot. And now a year later, he had he lost a couple piggies on one side and a couple on the other, but he's walking. And he said, I'm appreciative. And I said, you have to tell your story, so he'll be on and Save My Piggies at some point, but you've got to tell your story to people, because they need to know that there is hope out there. From a mountain of despair, you can get a stone of hope.
And that's where I think that these videos, Amputation Nation, the videos that ultimately will spiral right into an amazing documentary by these wonderful, wonderful human beings, Chris
Should we meet
Wooley
these
and
guys?
Wayne Dickmann. Yeah,
Should we let them talk?
I want to bring them in. We need to bring them in and let them talk. We can talk. Dr. John and I can talk for hours about preventing amputations, but thank you so much for all you do, and just a big hello and a thank you. And for those who are listening, we'll get to the actual videos in the next after the break. But first, how did you both get involved, with and get excited and so passionate about peripheral artery disease and saving limbs and producing Amputation Nation?
Well, it all started out with back in the 1980s, me getting associated with a famous cardiothoracic surgeon by the name of Dr. Ted Dietrich. And I was a young college intern, television student. And Dr. Dietrich was one of the world's leading cardiovascular educators. One of his first employees that he hired at the Arizona Heart Institute was a cinematographer, and the second employee was a medical illustrator. That's how important he thought educating the public to the dangers of heart disease was. And so he had a whole media department in Phoenix, Arizona. I was fortunate enough to be part of that when I was just a very young man. And so when we first started with Dr. Dietrich, he was doing open heart surgeries and fempop bypasses to correct blockages in the legs. And during the early days of me being there, he began to champion the endovascular movements of doing catheter-based procedures. And so that's how I got into it. And I just was in sort of the very fortunate place to see Dr. Palmaz invent the first stent, and Dr. John Simpson inventing the first atherectomy, and Dr. Perotti and Dr. Fogarty and all these pioneers. And so that's how we got into it. And then Wayne shortly thereafter joined the group as well.
Yeah, Wayne, why are you so passionate?
Well, I mean, as a filmmaker, we spend most of our days guns for hire, where we're marketing things and everything. But, our ultimate dream is to be able to make stuff that changes people's lives and makes a difference. And telling this story of such an underserved populations and so many amputations that can be avoided, this is why we do what we do. We all live to think we can make a difference in the world, and to be able to use our talents towards, the greater good is very rewarding. And that's why we want to do it.
Well, coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW, and our very special Global PAD Impact Awards special. We're going to have more with Wayne and Chris, and we're going to actually listen in for those of you on KDOW. And if you're watching via YouTube at youtube.com/the @ the way to my heart, you will actually get to see the very first Amputation Nation video. That's next right here on the Heart of Innovation. Don't go away.
Your sugar runs high, it's more than a sign. Diabetes creeping in, it's a dangerous line. Pre-diabetes too, don't think it's too light. It can lead to PAT, so start the fight. Sugar's sweet, but the cost is real. High blood sugar makes your arteries feel clogged. Slow flow, it's a ticking time bomb. Catch it early, stay strong, and keep your legs on. Sugar's not so sweet when your leg is in pain. Not controlling sugar is where peripheral artery disease sets in. Got sugar? Get checked. Don't wait too late. Save your legs, save your life, take control of your fate. Leg pain, cold feet, neuropathy too. These are signs diabetes caught you. High sugar's the link for circulation and pain. Left untreated, your leg might end inflamed.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us. PAD Awareness Month, and we're kicking it off. Go big or go home, right? So we've got Wayne and Chris, two dedicated individuals who are trying to spread the word about peripheral arterial disease and the perils of amputation via videos. So Wayne, Chris, your first video, Amputation Nation. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with it, who you decided to interview and why, and just really the genesis behind it.
Yeah, well, we had just finished up a PBS documentary on scatter radiation in the cath lab, and we were looking for our next exciting topic. And we work with a lot of doctors around the country, and PAD was always on the back burner and on the top of our minds of a topic to tackle, just because we're so familiar with that world, and have relationships with some of these amazing doctors trying to get the word out for 20 years or so that too many people are being amputated. So we hooked up with doctors Saab out of Michigan, Dr. Walker in Houma, Louisiana, and decided that this would be our next project. And what's interesting is, a lot of times these patients are looking for where to go, where to find an expert, and there's really no rhyme or reason in finding a PAD expert. You would think they'd be at the biggest institutions, and sometimes they are, but sometimes the world leader also comes from a small little town in Houma, Louisiana. And so we made our first video clip with Dr. Walker in that smaller market.
And that's amazing. What about you, Chris? What is most memorable about the taping, the recording process, and talking to these patients for the very first time?
Yeah, we've had, I've been doing this for 40 years, and there's been some amazing stories of people. And the most amazing thing that's happened that I've seen, and it's happening now as well, is if you ever go and I've been filming operations for, like I said, 40 years. And if you ever go in and you see an actual amputation, or you see a FemPop bypass, and then you are fortunate enough to fast forward a few years in the 90s, where they were doing the same thing with the catheter base. So there's just basically a small tube placed in your leg, and they can open the vessel just the same way that they could by doing a FemPop bypass. That's been the most amazing thing that I've seen through these years. And fortunately, got to see it firsthand because Dr. Dietrich was one of the first ones to champion this. You were talking about the Bay Area. There's been a lot of amazing vascular surgery innovations there. Dr. Thomas Fogarty is another person that we got to spend a lot of time with. Innovated the Fogarty catheter, which is a way for pulling clot out of the blood vessel and restoring blood flow. That's been the thing that inspired me and inspires me to today, because you guys were talking before we started recording about some of the new technology that Dr. Phillips is using, and that people wanting to see it, Kim, on your website. So those are the amazing things, to see the innovation and to see the spirit in the innovators.
Do you guys find it difficult? Oh, sorry, Kim, I'm just curious. When you interview a patient, for example, do you find it difficult, like talking to them, or I guess getting them to open up about the disease, or are they pretty, I guess you got to kind of feel them out a little bit, but are most people pretty willing to share their stories?
I think a lot of patients first start out thinking that they're looking we're looking for a TV commercial where they're just here to give us the good story highlight, and the doctor was so nice and everything was so great. So it usually takes, we'll let them speak like that for the first 10 minutes or whatever. But, the secret is for them to forget they're being interviewed and you get lost in a conversation. And you get the real story where you get them to be comfortable, and the oh my gosh moments. I can't believe, I think in the second clip we're going to show, there was a patient talking about where she overheard somebody on the other side of the drape that, why don't you just cut your leg off and get it over with? And she was like, I can't believe you're saying that, and so it's getting the patients to that level where they're really comfortable telling you the real deal. And it doesn't happen immediately, but eventually we get there.
So why don't we take a listen in and check out Amputation Nation video 1. For those of you who are just listening in on KDOW, make sure to check out youtube.com/the way to my heart to actually see it, because it is compelling.
How many procedures are you willing to go through? Is it worth going through that many, or would you rather just cut the leg off?
That's funny. Was it worth it? Oh yeah, I have my leg, man.
Amputation should absolutely, positively, 100% never be a first-line treatment.
What an incredible operation, what an incredible lab you have here.
Without a doubt, we're underdiagnosing peripheral arterial disease. It has not gotten the attention that it should, because it is a killing disease, it is a disabling disease, and most importantly, it's a disease that we now have great treatments for.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
They were going to amputate it, and I needed to consult with my family. Did I want it off here or here? You're just shocked. It's scary. I don't even know how to explain it. You're 42 years old.
We're waiting till people are at the end of the spectrum and almost beyond hope. There is good care available here. Closed minds are what we have to get rid of.
And that was Amputation Nation. That is clip number 1. And we're going to hear more about it from Chris and Wayne coming up next, right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away.
Do your legs hurt when you walk? Do you feel cramping or numbness that makes you stop and rest? This could be more than just getting older. It could be peripheral artery disease, also called PAD. PAD happens when arteries in your legs become clogged, limiting blood flow. And when blood can't flow, your health is at risk. PAD affects millions worldwide. If you have diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or if you smoke, you're at higher risk. Symptoms may include leg pain when walking, slow healing wounds, or numbness in your feet. Some people don't notice symptoms at all until it's too late. PAD is serious. It can lead to amputations, heart attacks, and strokes. But the good news, PAD can be treated if caught early. This September, take a step for your health. Talk to your doctor. Ask about a simple PAD screening test. Protect your legs. Protect your life. Every step matters. Walk strong, live long. Get screened for PAD this September. For more information, visit padtest.org or call our LegSaver hotline, 1-833-PAD-LEGS.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So we just heard that clip, and the thing that kind of struck me a little bit was the gentleman who was pushing his lawnmower, had a procedure, and I think you guys had kind of alluded to, okay, you need one, you had the procedure, you might need another one. And we recognize this with patients, right? I tell them at least, once you have a procedure, we cross that Rubicon, you're probably going to have another one. And most folks are okay with that because the alternative for some, minority, but for some is a major amputation. And he was like, I'm cool. Like, I don't mind having these procedures, but there are some patients who say, I've had enough. What did that strike you guys as interesting, or, how did you respond to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the most dangerous advice these patients receive is that it's going to eventually get amputated anyways. So why don't you just get it over with? Well, that's not a good idea because 50% of those people end up dead in 5 years. So, the idea, we have to get out of this thinking that these procedures are a cure. They're not a cure. They are treatments to keep, just like you're keeping a cancer patient as healthy as possible for quality of life as long as possible. That's what these procedures are about. Okay. And so as many times, if you have to go get a balloon or a laser or an atherectomy every 6 months, so be it. You get to keep your leg and you get to keep your life. And so I encourage patients to reject the idea of that an amputation will solve their problems, because it's just the beginning of the end, usually.
Well, I find it interesting. We have not found it a good person to make a good argument for amputation, or at least somebody that wants to go on camera. A lot of most of the physicians that treat this are advocates of less invasive versus the amputation. So, that's inspirational as well, that we have people that are out there that want, like Wayne said, with the quality of life is what we want to continue. You think
I
about
actually had a doctor who told me, he said, and I apologize for the rhetoric here, but he actually said this to me. He said, this guy is just a poor Black man from the projects. He smokes, he drinks, he eats poorly, he won't exercise. So going back to what you said, Wayne, why delay the inevitable? And throughout my career, I've been traveling the world since 2016, nearly a dozen countries, more than 30 states, watching hundreds of doctors, thousands of hours of procedures, and including amputations. And so many of those amputations with the doctors again and again and again, it's why delay the inevitable. And patients tell me, in our network of 12,000 patients across the globe, every one of them that we've talked to would tell you that I would rather walk to live another day and live to walk another day. I get my teeth cleaned, the plaque and calcium off my teeth twice a year. Why can't I have another procedure to roto-root my arteries, is the way they say it, once a year? Now, that being said, and I want Dr. Phillips to also touch on it because I think it's important, that there is a caveat to the whole thing, that these patients do need to be compliant. There needs to be more structure in conservative programs, exercise, diet, smoking cessation, compliance with medications, because if you can get all of that together, you can usually reduce or delay the revolving door of procedures, even delay procedures altogether. But we got to start there. And that's not even happening. The support for it that these patients need.
Right. I mean, we need to be able to rewind the clock for folks and at least get the younger people in our country and around the world raise their awareness towards this disease process. You start laying fatty streaks and plaque in your arteries in your 20s, okay? And the diet, and so we need to start talking to people about eating healthy, exercising, being proactive. But I had a conversation this week with a patient that I've treated his leg. He already had an AKA on an above the knee amputation on the right side, and I have done multiple procedures on the left. And despite improving blood flow, he just has these wounds that won't heal, and now they've gotten to the point where, regardless of what I do, his foot is not salvageable. So we had a conversation about the amputation, and nobody raises their hand and says, hey, give me an amputation. But some patients will ask for an amputation when they've reached the end of the line, and then they're becoming more and more debilitated. They're in bed, they're losing muscle mass. So sometimes you have to just do it. Now, this poor gentleman, he is at a crossroads of considering hospice versus the amputation, because he's end stage renal disease on dialysis, and his body is kind of shutting down, and that's what we all want to work to prevent, but sometimes it happens. And I'm not an advocate of doing 3 procedures a year for a patient, 2, whatever it is, but sometimes we have to do follow-up procedures on patients. That's part of the game. But make no mistake, I mean, some of the stuff we do, I tell people we play with dangerous tools and there are complications. But I tell patients, listen, it's highly unlikely I'm going to kill you doing this procedure. And if you're staring down a major amputation, I might be able to help you. So let's give it a shot. Let's go for it. But you have to work with me. If you want me to fight for your leg, you have to fight for your leg. You got to throw the cigarettes out, get your blood sugars under control, take your medicines. Let's work together. And let's pull the rope in the same direction. But it was sad. It was when I had the conversation with the patient and his wife, like it's sad that you have to have that. I have to have that with this gentleman who may just choose hospice and go home and die comfortably. But that's the disease and how devastating it is.
And I think that one of the main points that Amputation Nation and Chris and Wayne, you are trying to convey is literally just the good old try. At least try. If amputation's on the table, patients, stand up for yourself and say, hey, doc, why not try, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And nothing proved that to me more than when we went to one of your events in Chicago and we got a whole room full of patients together talking about their experiences and the passion from their experiences, because that group, it was a mixture of educated and probably some newbies to that group, but you could tell which ones had gone through the process and had educated themselves, because they were the ones that had the most anger and the most fight in them, which was great to see.
True that.
And coming up next right here on the Heart of Innovation on this very special Global PAD Impact Awards special, we are going to see that second clip with some of our patients from the Global PAD Association's network of 12,000 across the globe who converged on Chicago to meet with the production team for Amputation Nation. Next, right here on the Heart of Innovation, you'll hear what they have to say, so don't go away.
When I ran a cardiology clinic, one rule I had for my MAs and my support staff was everyone gets their socks off that comes in. You can be coming in complaining about chest pain, fast heartbeats. You could just be coming in for a preventative visit. Hey, I want to talk about my cholesterol and how I can improve it. I'm looking at your feet. Because all of the risk factors, Kim, that, as you know, that portend heart disease, which is the most common diagnosis in our nation, are shared by peripheral artery disease, right? And while some people will shake off minor chest pain, for the most part, if you're having heavy chest pain, you're getting evaluated. It's amazing how claudicants or even chronic limb-threatening disease patients sometimes won't surface these sorts of issues with their physicians. So there are countless numbers of folks, Kim, that diagnosed with PAD when they were coming in to be evaluated for something else. And when you learn about smoking and the pain with walking, it's remarkable what you can do when you intervene earlier rather than later.
Welcome back, everybody. Wayne, you gave a great tease to the second video that we want to show. So let's pull that video. You guys can only hear it, but if you're on our YouTube at the Weight of My Heart / the Weight of My Heart, you can see it on there. So let's take a listen.
Your type of condition is called critical limb ischemia. It's the most advanced form of PAD or peripheral arterial disease.
Every 4 minutes, there is an amputation in this country due to PAD and diabetes. We also know that 85% of these amputations are preventable with early intervention.
It's a flip of the coin. Patient prognosis is tied to whether or not they are referred to a true expert in the management of peripheral arterial disease.
Do you know if your physician is an experienced CLI operator?
When you're in the hospital dealing with doctors and stuff, you figure they know what they're talking about.
The skill level varies doctor from doctor and hospital to hospital.
Patients with limb threat are in constant fear. The depression that someone experiences after they lose a limb is equivalent to those of losing their spouse of 40 years.
I was stuck in a wheelchair close to 2 years and my husband had to quit work.
I didn't know what to do at this point because we had had nothing but infections and hospital stays and infections and hospital stays.
And they took one toe, another toe, and then it was another toe, and then half his foot before he was even diagnosed with PAD.
And all I heard was, "What are we doing here? Just cut it off." And I pulled the curtain back like, "Are you kidding me?"
Do you really want to go through all that?
That's crazy. That's insane. The protocol is to send them to amputation. Always, always, always get multiple opinions.
We do have options.
We need to listen more to our patients.
If you're going to chop off their leg anyway, why not just let someone else try?
This is the progression. First comes the wounds, and then comes an amputation. And I wasn't going to accept that.
So that's what it's like to try to save a leg.
So profound conversation, I think, is what I would say. Those patients really opened up, and as we were talking during the break, some patients were a little bit more animated than others. But you know, Chris and Wayne, what kind of shocked you or got your attention as you were interviewing these folks?
Well, definitely their passion and their anger, and you know how some of them have felt misled at some point, but also how thankful they are for somebody like Kimberly, who is an advocate for them, and you can tell they have a passion to share that same knowledge with other patients now as well. And I think that's how these movements begin and begin to snowball, is by having a commitment of a small group of people that really, really care, and it just grows and grows and grows. And I think that's at the point where we're at right now. So I'm hopeful that, you know, these commitments from these organizations, these films, and hopefully this full length documentary will help increase that snowball to where we can put to rest the unnecessary amputations and really help patients out.
It's just so crazy because there is a contingency of physicians that I hear that don't like what I'm doing. But you hear from the patients, the thousands of patients that we have helped across the globe, and you hear what they have to say, like you did during these videos, where we helped advocate for them. We gave them hope again. We helped facilitate expedited life and limb saving care. We paid for transportation. We covered their deductibles. We paid for healthy food. We paid for their prescriptions that they couldn't afford. And we did all of this to help these patients. And we still do try. And even more, they don't like when I tell the patients the options that are available. They don't think patients should know what tools or techniques that are possible for limb salvage, that it should be up to the doctor to have those conversations. But if their doctor, just bless their heart, doesn't know that there might be other options available, it's impossible to know, right, Dr. John? All of the different options that are available everywhere across the globe, all the different tools, all the different techniques. And so that's why we're here for the Global PAD Association. And we have our Leg Saver hotline that people can call. And so that they can get help and that they can weigh their options so they can make the most informed decisions. And that's why I love this series that you've created and ultimately are spinning into a documentary, because it's going to get the patients to start saying, hold on, wait a minute, I may need a second opinion. I have hope again. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this. For the longest time, I have been advocating, and I think what you guys do here with respect to creating hopefully something that's mainstream media that can be disseminated to the masses, it empowers the patient. But we don't have a face or a famous person that has PAD or, has lost a toe or something. And I kept thinking maybe we need that. But now the more I hear what you guys are doing, maybe we just need patients. I mean, that's the grassroots effort, and you just have patients that are empowered, the advocates, and that allows for the snowballing. So you guys just need to interview more and more people, I guess, and really get that documentary up and running, right?
Well, I guess if you go back to the Dietrich days, he always just said he wanted to dispel the mysteries of what was going on, behind the curtain. Well, what are they actually doing to me? the more you educate these folks about their condition, the better they are to get well. And the groups like Kim's and some of the others around the country, are doing a great job. All these patients it's almost like you're sitting in a room with some soldiers who they're telling you their war stories, because everybody's got their own individual story, and those stories also help others as well to figure out what's wrong with them. So yeah, I agree. The more people and the more different stories we interview, I think the better others get educated by.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely huge. So what can people do to help support? And so we could see more of these videos. Any plans for a video 3 before you go after the big documentary to get us even more excited about what's to come?
Well, we have partnered up with a couple organizations that hopefully will help us come across the finish line raising those funds. We partnered with New Cardiovascular Horizons out of the Houma, Louisiana area. And then also recently we have just partnered with the Arizona Heart Foundation, which is kind of brings Chris and I full circle, because that was the foundation Dr. Dietrich started back in the 1970s for patient education. And so even though he's no longer with us, his foundation carries on, and we are hopeful that through those foundations we'll be able to raise the money and bring this story in full depth and attention that it deserves.
Do you find that industry, those companies that help make our equipment that we use to help these folks, do you find that industry is interested in pursuing funding or helping you guys out, or do they kind of keep you at arm's length?
No, we're there's times that industry helps us with the production funds, and another reason why that we're associated with the Arizona Heart Foundation. We don't, we don't take money from industry so that we can tout their device and show how it benefits these patients. That our films are normally aimed at PBS, and they have strict rules about, sponsoring and funding. So, but yeah, we're welcoming anyone who wants to help us get this story told.
Yeah.
And where can they go to help?
Yeah, on our website, Amputation Nation, themovie.org, there's links that they can learn about helping financially. And also, I just want to circle back to like the Arizona Heart Foundation. When if a corporate sponsor wants to help, we're the filmmakers with the editorial control, and we're the ones telling the story. But if it's a topic that they think needs to be told, then by all means, we encourage them to, reach out to the Arizona Heart Foundation and support their mission of education. But it's, again, it's not we don't do pay to play. That's not our thing. We're here to tell our story, and if people care about it, that is fantastic, and we would appreciate it.
And coming up next, right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to hear about another project they're working on. They're all about creating the impact and creating the change that we all want to see across medicine. So stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away.
I have one patient now. She's started walking, and she actually used some other methods of anti-inflammatory, non-traditional methods, like I think the one term is grounding, where people talk about just going barefoot in the sand or going barefoot on the grass, just somewhere where you're barefoot in the earth to help reduce inflammation. And so she's been doing that, and it's not only helped the circulation to her legs, but it's also helped the circulation to her carotid artery. She had blockage there, and she overall just feels much better. So that's a success story where the walking and using something natural as just standing in grass for 10 minutes has been beneficial to all the plaques that she has in her body, and her A1C has come down.
Welcome back, everybody. So we only have 4 minutes left, one of which is we're going to show a clip from Scattered Denial, a 6-part series that you guys completed about 1.5 years ago, but it got so much traction. You put it together for PBS. It's a fantastic documentary on the radiation exposure that we get while doing these procedures, and it's near and dear to my heart. I am militant about being protective, but tell us how you guys came about this idea. It sounds like the 7th episode is going to be released, in next month. So why don't we get that clip and then we'll come back to it.
Every time we step in here to save a life, we are exposing ourselves to potential harmful effects of ionizing radiation.
We are the occupation that is exposed to the highest amount of radiation.
I think I felt this radiation cannot hurt me.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Over 8 out of 10 of those brain cancers are going to be on the left side.
90 to 92% of all my skin cancers were on the left side of my body.
There's another type of exposure. It's wearing these lead aprons.
Ruptured disc, completely paralyzed right leg.
Muscle wasting, foot dry.
My right leg was paralyzed. I couldn't walk for over a month.
There are other technologies right now that are available.
Some of these new systems are very slick.
We as the physician community really have to speak up and have to say that you guys have to protect us.
Powerful stuff. Again, Wayne, why did you guys do this?
Well, we've talked about numerous times in this interview. We've talked about our inspiration, where we got our start with Dr. Ted Dietrich. He unfortunately passed away from a brain tumor that he attributed to radiation exposure. And so that was kind of the last gift we could give him. He was passionate about giving out this warning. And so we started diving into this project and found out that there was a lot of truth to it and a lot of people suffering. Cancer rates are much higher in people that work in cath labs. Orthopedic issues for wearing lead aprons. If you're a normal person, you have a 6% chance of having a orthopedic issue in your lifetime. If you work in a cath lab, it's 60%. Wow. So there is a lot of damage done to these physicians and staff that are there to save our lives. And what's interesting is the people that probably get the highest radiation exposure are, oddly enough, the ones that work on PAD and CLI cases, because those cases are very, very long and they have to dance around the room. So the new shielding stuff doesn't necessarily work great for them either quite yet, because they have to be in they can't hide in the shadows like some of these straight up cardiologists.
Yeah, so I could understand, why so many doctors also may not want to get into the CLI operations and advanced limb salvage. And it is much easier and safer for them as a doctor to just go ahead and amputate. So truly, if your doctor is a CLI fighter, they're jeopardizing their life to save your limbs. So make sure you do your part as a patient and be compliant with your walking and your eating habits, smoking cessation, and medicine. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Best PAD videos of the year. And where can they go see Scattered Denial?
Scattereddenial.org.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.